Hello everyone, Just Podcast TV is here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified on new contents.
Episode 368. This is a shameless act. Sander was stunned. How could he be so confident? He had tried this car on the road just now. It was not bad. It was strong. But it was still on the road in the city. No matter how strong it was, he did not break 100. So he did not know what kind of background it was. Just how much combat power could this car bring out? However, thinking that it was Dusty who transferred it, and Zach dared to speak like that again, Sander mustered up his courage. All right, let's do as you say. The gimmick is our car. If we win, we'll take it away from each other. Sander agreed, but Jackson laughed out loud. Are you messing with me? You are such a lousy thing to play with me. How much is your Wind Chaser worth? You don't even need to pay the purchase tax for my car, right? Besides, what's the use of me winning your stupid car? I don't even have the right to enter my garage. At this moment, everyone's attention was drawn to this side. When they heard that there was a competition in the distance, they rushed over. Finally, someone recognized Zach. Hey! Isn't this the boss of Wooden Automobiles? These two cars are their new products. It's so cool. More people recognized Zach and started to talk about the good reputation and cost-performance ratio of the Wind Chaser in the market. However, when they talked about the competition, they were not optimistic. The surrounding people were noisy and very noisy. Zach did not like this kind of crow-like noise. Therefore, he came closer and said to Jackson, this car was tailor-made by the Dream Automobiles Company for Sander. It is the only one in the world. The adjustment was also personally made by the old Professor Dusty. Because of this, Jackson cut off Zach. How much do you think this car is worth? There was only one car in the world, and it was personally adjusted by Dusty. Then the meaning of this car was different. If the meaning of this car was converted into value, it would be more powerful than Jackson's. This was not what Zach said, but it was what everyone who was watching had said. Wind Chaser brand cars are currently popular. It was definitely the only custom-made car in the world, so its value would definitely be high. However, Jackson didn't think too much about it. He felt that if he beat Sander and took away Sander's custom-made car, it would be a big deal. Therefore, he agreed. He even thought of where to celebrate tonight, and he would drive the custom-made car. Did you see that? This is the custom-made car made for Sander by Wind Chaser. I won it. This was definitely going to be a big deal. Therefore, Jackson agreed to it very quickly, and he couldn't wait to participate in the competition. Everyone dispersed. Sander and Jackson drove the two cars to the same line. When the distributor waved the flag in his hand, the two cars sped out at the same time. Especially the violent roar of the Wanderer. It sounded like it was going to tear apart the surrounding air. It was filled with boundless power. But the linear race did not listen to whose car was loud, but to see whose car reached the finish line first. However, when it just started, everyone seemed to have already predicted the outcome with their mouths agape. The speed of the Bugatti Veyron was indeed fast. In less than 3 seconds, it had already exceeded 100 miles per hour, and it was still crazily speeding up. However, Sander's custom-made car was even faster. Under the motion mode, it instantly scuttled out. It was clearly visible that the gap between the two cars was instantly widened, and it was getting bigger and bigger. The most intuitive sign was that when Sander's vehicle reached the finish line, Jackson's Bugatti Veyron was still 1/3 away from the finish line. Jackson was stunned. The simplest step was to step on the accelerator. There was no skill to speak of. It was just to compete with the power system. His own Wanderer was actually so much weaker than Sander's custom-made car. He could not even imagine that the Wanderer that he had spent more than $50 million to land on the ground, and the Wanderer that was supposed to be in a favorable position, had become sluggish this time. Was it because that his car had a malfunction? Jackson could not understand why the Wanderer could lose such a competition. that it was supposed to win. Episode 369, Am I Worthy? Not to mention Jackson, even Sander, who was sitting in the custom-made vehicle, felt like he was going crazy. After switching to the sports mode and stepping on the accelerator, he felt that he was about to float up. This wasn't an exaggeration. If it wasn't for the seatbelt that bound him to the chair, he really felt that he would have floated up. It was simply too fierce. The car was like light and electricity, and his vision felt like it wasn't enough. The object beside him definitely did not dare to look. Before he could recover his senses, the car had already reached the finish line. He turned around to look at Jackson's Wanderer. It was still 600 to 700 meters away. Are you modifying the engine of the plane for me? The thrust is killing me. As a professional driver, Sander's legs were swinging after he got out of the car. It was unbelievable. That crazy speed made him feel horrified when he thought about it. That's right, it was scary. It was scary. That speed was too scary. After Jackson parked the car beside him, Sander finally came back to his senses. He had won. As the trophy of the winner, the Wanderer belonged to him. Regardless of how powerful the custom-made car was, Sander knocked on the window of Jackson's car. Come, come, come. Get out of my car. Don't stay in my car anymore. Get out of my car. Hurry up. Admit defeat. Jackson was about to cry. This shouldn't have happened. He had never planned to lose. How could he lose so easily and so thoroughly? Jackson couldn't understand. He even wanted to go back on his word. The most thorough way to go back on his word was to step on the accelerator and leave. 50 million? Who would really let you drive away with his favorite car? No way. There was no way at all. As the throttle roared, Jackson drove away. Luckily, Sander had dodged him quickly. Otherwise, he would have been lost under the wheels. Sander was furious. He got into the car and was about to chase after Jackson when he saw a flash of light. After that, he heard a loud roar. Looking at the crazy SUV and looking at Zach, who was smiling from afar, Sander was completely shocked. What kind of car was this? Even an SUV could not move so fast. Was there still justice in this world? The facts proved that there was no justice in this world. Donnie drove the Windchaser Soul at a speed that was 2,000 meters behind. When Jackson's Bugatti Veyron was about to leave the track, it was blocked by Donnie's car at the exit of the track. Jackson was scared silly at that time. He wanted to brake at a speed of nearly 200 miles per hour. However, just as he lifted his foot, the car crashed into him. With a loud bang, a pile of rotten iron hit Windchaser Soul's side. As for the Windchaser Soul, it only swayed a little before continuing to drive steadily. There was nothing wrong with it. Looking at the position of the collision, everyone felt that it was like a dream. Other than a slight dent, there was nothing wrong with it. What a joke. Donnie was taken away, and the vehicle was taken away, but it was quickly sent back. As for Jackson, he was not bad. At least he had a $45 million car. His life was saved, but his legs were crushed. On the way to the hospital, he asked the doctor if he could cure his own legs. The doctor frowned and said, "I am a doctor, not a god." He asked the doctor to save his two broken legs. It was indeed a little difficult to be a rally driver with no legs. There were no accidents during the competition that day. Sander was the first, and he far surpassed the others. When he and Zach drove away, one after another, the second and third place finally crossed the finish line. The car maniac went crazy. Sander could finally achieve this without relying on his skills. When they returned home, Sander couldn't wait to try Zach's car. For someone who loved a car, good cars were absolutely attractive. After Sander tested the car, he got out of the car and cursed. "Is this still an SUV? This is clearly a super sports car. This is too crazy, too much, too crazy." Looking at the depression caused by the crash of the Wanderer, Sander found it extremely rare. Wanderer had turned into an iron lump. The car only had a dent. The safety of this car was definitely at its peak, and the next moment, he ignored his status as a famous person and ran towards Zach with his tail wagging. "Director Marquez, can you get me another one? This car was safe. It ran fast, but it was not afraid of getting hurt when it flipped over. It was too solid and too powerful. It's definitely the thing that racers dream of the most." In Sanders' eyes, this car had already exceeded his common sense. Wind obstruction, and so on. Originally, it was a flaw in the SUV's speed, but in this car, it seemed like it didn't exist. He really liked it. He was just short of hugging Zach's car and sleeping, but Zach helplessly waved his hand and then said to him, "The hydrogen power system has contributed. It's a reward from above." Sanders suddenly understood. Since it was a reward from the higher-ups, Sanders wouldn't bother with this car anymore. This was a symbol of status, and ordinary people would not possess it. After greeting Zach for lunch, Sanders wrote a message on the internet in the afternoon. As the owner of the Wind Chaser, from the perspective of a professional racer, he praised the hydrogen power system of the car again and again. In the end, he even showed a beautiful picture of his custom-made car, and his expression showed that he couldn't let go of it. He didn't make any pretenses at all. This was his most genuine performance at that time. However, there were comments on the internet saying that he was a spokesperson and that he was making fake comments. Sanders did not use the words that he was good at to respond. Instead, in the following few days, he participated in various kinds of competitions where he could see the light and could not see the light. He was invincible. Every time he won, he would be the champion. He had skills and a good car. He was so crazy that there was no end to it. In less than a week, all the racers protested again, banning Sanders from participating in the competition. If he wanted to participate, he could. He got out of the custom-made car. The reason was just like the weeping of a certain race champion. "This is totally shameless. He took the plane and drove with us. How can we run?" Of course, Sanders did not drive the plane, but his cries were really angry. It made everyone realize that Sanders was not bragging. This also caused the other companies, Wind Chasers, to go crazy when they went on the market. They were all practically fighting for money. Even foreigners came over after hearing the name of the car. After testing the car, they directly increased the price to buy a second-hand car because it was too difficult to snatch a new one. Episode 370. They did it on purpose. In addition to Wind Chaser of QZ Group, other domestic car companies' Wind Chaser car brands were also listed. All car companies worked together to not compete for the market in the US, but overseas. With good quality and a good reputation, the international market was quickly opened. However, many foreign netizens expressed that they were very angry because overseas vehicles with the same quality were sold for 3 times the price. Many media and car companies were not optimistic. They had a feeling that the Wind Chaser brand would be affected by markets overseas. Even their country's users expressed on the internet that they must unite to push Wind Chaser's brand to a lower price. However, they were thinking too much. Although they shouted that they were united, it did not stop the number of cars in the sales store from decreasing day by day. When some people were shouting for unity and preparing to buy cars, they realized that the cars had been sold out. The annual World Cars Wind and Cloud Award was getting closer and closer. Carson had also arranged for suitable cars to participate in the election. The World Cars Wind and Cloud Award in this world had basically no suspense. The other car companies only thought that the Best Design Award, the Best Engine Award, and so on. The Wind and Cloud Award would definitely belong to the Wind Chaser brand. There was no doubt about it. Even the Wind and Cloud Award winner from the previous year had made a statement. If the Wind Chaser brand could not make it onto the list, then it would be a dirty deal. Because someone had commented on them before. There was a shady deal about their company winning the award. That was why their spokesperson would give such an answer. It was enough to show how influential Wind Chaser was. However, just as Zach was waiting for the annual Car, Wind, and Cloud Award, the old fox called again. It wasn't a big deal. He just asked Zach to go back and report on his work. Zach did not know what to report, but the old fox rarely asked, so he agreed. Furthermore, as the new leader, Minnie had to pay a visit to the patriarch of the Marquez family. After all, it was the Marquez family that supported her to become the next patriarch. Whether it was from grace or the order of the family's memorial tablets, she, as the new patriarch, had to pay a visit. Therefore, when Zach was passing through Canada, he brought Minnie and Juniper along with him back to the Marquez family. After returning to the island, Zach brought Minnie and her daughter to see his grandfather. Zach only led them out of the house after the meeting. The reason was very simple. This was a conversation between the patriarch and the patriarch. He was not qualified. To be precise, his position in the circle of big families was not as high as Minnie's. The reason why he was respected was mainly because the Marquez family had not confirmed the next patriarch. Under such circumstances, whether it was Zach, Michael, or Kyle, everyone could become the next patriarch. However, if Kyle was chosen as the next patriarch one day, then Zach's status as Mr. Marquez would fall tremendously. Putting other things aside, at least it would be very difficult for him to meet Minnie. After all, their status was not compatible. Of course, this was excluding personal feelings. This was only under normal circumstances. In the living room, Quincy did not hesitate to praise Minnie's tenacity. This kind of tenacity, and waiting 10 years to this day, was not something that everyone could possess. Furthermore, Minnie did indeed do very well. Although her 10 years of management could not overtake Mark's rule, it had provided her with a great help in taking over the Engler family. Moreover, Minnie's talent in management was not bad. In just a month after she took over the Engler family, she had become normal. When others thought that the Engler family would be in chaos for at least a year, she had successfully led the way. After another month of management, her performance was even better than before. Even Quincy praised Minnie. "On you! I saw the demeanor of a man with a new title. Very good." It was an honor to be praised by the leader of the Marquez family.